Hi, welcome to another episode of Mommy Said a Bad Word with Mindy J. I am your host, Mindy J, aka Yapstar M, aka You Wish I Was Your Baby Mama. Want me to come around and give you good karma, but no. AKA Meet Me in the Yap. It's going down. AKA Your Baby Mama's favorite baby mama. AKA Welcome to Mother's Mind. AKA Still running through the mall with your daddy, yaddy. AKA, bitch, I'm a mother. No drama. AKA, colder than Titanic water. AKA, your problematic bae. Mwah, no bars. That is how long I have been a podcast junkie. I remember when Bodega Boys first started their podcast. I remember when a lot of the big podcasts that have come and gone and are still here. I remember when they first started, before everybody had a podcast, right? Before podcast equipment hit the streets like crack in the 80s. I remember when all of this stuff first started. And I know cishet black men get a lot, not just cishet black men, cishet men in general get a lot of flack for podcasts, and deservedly so. But I don't think the Bodega Boys gets their flowers enough. That is probably my favorite male podcast of all time. I miss them. I still support them separately, Jesus and Mero or whatever, but I miss Bodega Boys, okay? I miss them real bad. But anywho, that's not what I'm here for. This is a little something different. This is actually my first YouTube video, and I've been dreading the day that I had to do this. Yet, here I am. Because, if you're watching this on YouTube, because I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. One person might watch this, 100 people might watch this. I don't know. But I'm also posting the audio on my podcast feed. But I have been all about audio podcasts because that's how I was introduced to the game. Like, when people first started doing podcasts, you did not have to do video. You just did your podcast audio and people went to listen to it. But times have changed. Since starting this podcast. I started this podcast in 2020. I have not been consistent with this podcast since 2022. Not gonna lie. It's been about 2 years since I've been consistent with this podcast. Because there's a lot more to podcasting than meets the eye. Like, it's a lot, especially when you don't have backing. I think it's easier. That's why you see so many celebrities getting podcasts, because I think it's a lot easier for them because they have the backing, they have editors, they have a studio. As you can see in the background, this is my house. I'm doing everything myself. I set up a tripod. I got my computer in front of me. I got the mics. I got the board next to me. I'm doing everything myself. So podcasting is a lot. And obviously, if you couldn't tell from the premise of the show or the name, Mommy Said a Bad Word, I'm a mother. So I have twin 4-year-olds, and it's just a lot to work a full day, then come home, have to take care of them, and then try to record content, make content. But shoot, some gotta shake. And this is the stuff that I'm most passionate about. And I'm just, as we're moving into the new year, I'm like, enough excuses, girl. Enough excuses. I know it's tiring. We're all tired. We're all fed up. We're all struggling. But girl, get back to who you are. And I think it was really frustrating for me because every time I talk to people or meet people and have long conversations with them, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so funny, or like whatever, like I love your thought process, you should totally have a podcast. And I'm like, damn, I've had a podcast longer than a lot of people. A lot of people that are popping right now, I've had a podcast longer. But consistency is gonna beat everything. Like, consistency beats motivation, because motivation fades, but being consistent is where it's really at. And I think I've just been someone who has relied on motivation rather than consistency, and it's backfired. I've seen the big wheels keep on turning, and Proud Mary has not kept on burning. I've been right here watching as people got bigger. Like, I've watched the rise and fall of TikTok, literally. I see a lot of creators moving over here to YouTube, which is why I'm like, you know what? F it. I'm going to try and try my hand at YouTube. So there's some visual and there is some audio as well. I'll still, of course, link where you can listen to my podcast, like on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that. But yeah, here's some visual for the people who don't really just like the audio. I think depending on how you were introduced to the podcast game is how you're going to prefer things, because I don't necessarily prefer the like sit down interview stuff. I prefer to just listen to it in the car or, you know, while I'm working and stuff like that. But I'm a move with the market. But anyway, if you are watching this on YouTube, this is probably your first time being introduced to me. And if you're listening to this and you're still subscribed to my podcast, listen, I love you. God loves you. I'm praying peace and blessings to you for 2025. But just a little bit about me, and where I've been mentally, because a lot of people have been like, yeah, I'm like excited for you to make content, because I keep saying I'm gonna have a comeback. And I've just been in such a crazy space that I'm like, I don't even feel like it. But as I've watched the rise and fall of TikTok, because let's talk about that for a second. It was very interesting to watch creators get big on TikTok. And who knows what will happen with TikTok. I still post on there here now and then. It was very interesting to watch people get big on that app, because I know that I could do it if I applied myself. And I sat back and watched for 4 years as people applied themselves, and I did not, right? I started this podcast in 2020. I had my twins in 2020, April 2020. If you don't know, I'm a single mother of twins, and this podcast really came out of me basically coming out of postpartum depression, right? I was just in a space where I had my kids at the height of lockdown and the pandemic. I knew from the beginning that, sorry, I got a dog, y'all. He's chewing on something. Had to make sure it's not one of these cords, goddamn. But yeah, I just knew from jump that I was going to be a single mother. And just navigating that with 2 kids at one time, I was just in a really, really dark space. And podcasting kind of brought me out of that. And then, you know, life kind of turned up where, you know, I bought a house. Some other life stuff happened, and I put podcasting on the back burner. But it's a very humbling experience to watch people come up when you're doing the thing that you've been doing. Like, I put a lot of people onto podcasting, not even intentionally, right? I knew when I came back home from college, I graduated from college in 2017. I knew I wanted to do a podcast, right? And it took me until 2020 to actually do a podcast. I tried to start, I think, in like 2019. And again, that consistency versus motivation just got the best of me. And I didn't do what I was supposed to do and stick to my guns, right? But now it's just like, dang, you could have been so much further. And I'm not even going to compare, right? Because comparison is a thief of joy. But I'm just like at a space where, hey, it's time for Proud Mary to keep on burning. So yeah, I don't know. This is turning over a new leaf. And just kind of like an introduction to where I am. But the hard reality is I realized that I have stopped my bag for over 10 years. I've stopped my back for over 10 years because I remember back in the day, like thinking like I should do YouTube, and even watching people who started YouTube when I was thinking like I should do YouTube, and seeing them make this their full-time job and make this their full-time income. It's just very interesting when you realize like time is going to keep passing, and if you don't apply yourself, you're just going to watch other people do what you could have been did. That's a very humbling experience. And I'm in a space where I'm like, you know what? No longer will that be me. You feel me? Now, y'all know I'm a certified yapper. This is really just me yapping. I didn't even plan out a show today. It's just a reflection, right? As 2024 comes to an end, and as I have left my 20s, it's just a reflection, which I do want to delve deeper into things that I learned in my 20s. But one of the big things that I learned in my 20s, as I'm stepping into my 30s and I'm applying to my 30s, is the fear of perception, the fear of being perceived by people is going to, how can I say? Because I'm putting this on YouTube now. I don't want to be as graphic as I usually would be. It's going to F you over, F you in the ass every time. Like no Vaseline. I realized that I was fearful of being perceived, right? Like I talked about, I think I mentioned monitoring spirits, which I think the monitoring spirits conversation gets a little silly sometimes because, you know, you don't wish somebody happy birthday and they'll talk about you're a monitoring spirit now, right? But I do think that we have a lot of people who are watching us. They're not engaging with us. They're not interacting with us. They're just watching. You see them in your views. You see them. They're not liking anything. They're not saying like, hey, great job. Like they're just watching, and it's discouraging, and it puts this fear in your heart of like, maybe I shouldn't even post, right? That's why Instagram got so weird, right? Because again, TT been around for a minute at this point. I was around when all of these, including YouTube, was in beta. I remember when I remember when apps were created, right? Because we used to, back in my day, we used to have to go on the World Wide Web to see everything. I remember when these sites became apps, right? But Instagram, I remember when Instagram was in beta, and people talk about it all the time when, you know, you used to post the silliest stuff like, oh, just ate a burger, and it's like a half-eaten Wendy's burger. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, look at my breakfast, and it was like a poorly lit picture of your breakfast on a paper plate with a filter and a frame around it. Yes, I remember the frames. Do you remember the frames? I remember when they used to, before it was so-and-so and 27 million others liked this photo. They used to, like, if you had less than 10 likes, they used to like list every single name that liked the photo. I also remember when you used to have to go under so-and-so's pictures to like have a conversation because there was no DMs. There was no DMs on Instagram, right? I remember when DMs on Instagram happened because I was in college, and I remember this dude DMs me, and like at the time that DMs became a thing on Instagram, if you DM'd multiple people at one time, it automatically made it a group message. I don't know if it still does that, because I don't really just DM people off of, you know, the strength. Usually I'm responding to a story, or if I need to DM them personally, then I just do that. But back in the day, if you did multiple people, it became a group message, and I don't think people knew that. So I remember this guy in college DM'd me with 10 other girls, and it was something like, hey, what you doing tonight? But like, you could also see when everybody saw it. So like, everybody saw it. Like, Oh, wow. That's crazy. Um, anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. That has nothing to do with shit. But the point is, I think I've watched Instagram become this space for cringiness because it became aesthetic. Everything was aesthetic, right? That's when you see people deleting photos off of their page. They only have one photo or they have no photos, right? It also, Instagram started becoming like Snapchat, which with the story. So now people will just only post on the story. And I am people, I'm not gonna lie. I post on my page sometimes, but I mostly just post in my story. Like, and then people are always like deleting stuff and archiving stuff. So it doesn't tell the story that it used to tell. Like once it became Facebook, it just completely changed. And I think because of that realization that people are just watching, people are watching and judging and looking at you, it became this space. It can put you in a space mentally where it's like nobody is really supporting what I'm putting out. Nobody really cares about what I'm putting out. So why even put it out, right? It's embarrassing. It can feel embarrassing. Because the reality of it is most of your support is not going to come from people who you know. Most of your support is going to come from outside people. And then once you're popping and once you have hit your peak, then people you know are going to be like, oh yeah, like then they're going to jump on the bandwagon. And I think that fear of being perceived by people I know and them taking what I'm posting and having this perception of me has crippled me in a lot of ways. But my fear of being perceived has stopped my bag for far too long. And I refuse to let it continue to stop my bag. But yeah, I'm excited for this journey. It's interesting because when I started this podcast, I think it was around my birthday, which was November 2020. It's now December 2024, about to be 2025. And I had just turned 26. I had just turned 26. Yeah, I just turned 26 because I had my kids at 25. So yeah, I had just turned 26 and I thought I was so grown, which I mean, I technically was. But it's so interesting how much life has changed from then to now. But I was just in this space of like feeling like, damn, I'm grown as fuck. I gotta make something shake. And now I'm 30. I turned 30 last month. I spent my birthday in Costa Rica, which was an amazing, beautiful country. But I have learned so much in the last 4 years, and I'm just ready to apply what I've learned. I've definitely, like I said before, learned that comparison is the thief of joy. I've also learned that, I've also just learned that you have to do it anyway. Everything, you have to do it anyway. Do it tired, do it scared, do it cringing, right? This is cringe. Especially like, I know people always talk about monitoring spirits, but there's a lot of people who watch your shit and don't interact with it, right? And you might not get any views. TikTok taught me that, which I'm not consistent with posting on TikTok. But I've had a few viral videos on TikTok, and that's a humbling experience when you go from getting a super viral video to getting a couple views on TikTok, right? But I'm just in a space where it's like, it's only cringe until it's not. Because today I might be like, what am I doing? But tomorrow I'm walking into a bag, and that's just how I have to look at things in general. And that's not to say that I'm doing everything for a bag. I mean, money is important. Never get it twisted, baby. Never get it twisted. Money is very important, but it's not you know, the sole reason that I do everything that I do. Because right now, this is costing me. This is costing me more than it's making me. And my prayer is that one day, it will make me more money than it cost me, right? I have a return on my investment. But the reality is I work a job and I love my job, but I don't know what's coming with this new presidency, right? This second time around. And I don't even know that it'll be the president-elect, but yet the powers that be that are using this presidency to their advantage. I don't know what to expect. I may not have a job after the 4 years. Between 2025 to 2029, I may not have this position because it is, you know, linked to the government. So I don't know what that looks like. I really don't. And I just am realizing, like, why would I got kids? And that's the thing about being a mother, being a good mother, being a good parent, that I've had to realize, like, you have to find a way to make it work. And that's why I be so frustrated when people don't find a way to make it work. And I understand that life happens, things happen. I'm not speaking to, you know, having a down and out time. But people who treat life like it's whatever, and they don't try to figure out a way. I don't want to be that person. And I could feel myself turning into that person, right? Because faith without works is dead. And a lot of the things that I prayed for have happened in the last year, but it's so much more that I want out of life. And I just want to prepare myself for increase. But I say all that to say, and this is just kind of like a welcome back. I'm going to start trying to be consistent with my, you know, every Monday, I'm going to post a podcast. I'm not going to say try. I'm going to post a podcast episode. And of course on my YouTube, I'm not just going to post the podcast. I'm going to post other stuff too, vlogs, just chit chat, because I am a yapper. And that's another thing. I had to get off TikTok because the yapper content is not what it once was. It's not what it once was. It has become a very weird space. Very weird. It's the same way that Twitter has become a weird space. It's like it's a echo chamber. And I don't want to be that. I don't want what I'm talking about to be an echo chamber, because I know what I have to say is not no bullshit. Like, I don't like bullshit conversations. I don't like small talk. I don't like hearing the same thing over and over. Let's talk about some real shit. I don't know if I can say this on YouTube. I hope and pray this doesn't get taken down. I guess I should really look into what I can say on YouTube. I haven't read the rules and regulations, but I'm assuming it's a lot like TikTok, right? Because I know you can't say stuff like, you know, certain words, but can you cut? You can cuss on here, yeah. Because yeah. But anyway, Yapper content has changed, and I'm Yappy M, right? I'm Yapstar M, certified Yapper. I love to talk. I can talk for hours and hours and hours if I want to. But I want to say stuff with substance. I want to bring substance to the conversation. I want to add to the conversation. And I want to be a light to people. And I want for people who are listening to me to be like, I love what you had to say about that. I don't want it's the yapping content is getting weird, y'all. It's getting weird. It's getting weird. And once you're weird, you can't unweird yourself to me. I don't want to be that. I want to, everything I do, I want it to add to this crazy, crazy world that has so much bullshit going on. I want this to be a safe space. I want this to be light. I want this to be fun. And I mean, I'm not going to say conversations will never get heavy, but I want this to be a space that people are comfortable. And I just thank you for coming along on the ride.